Hi everybody, this is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we're going to do a plant spotlight today on ficus. Now, this is a very large plant family, or genus I should say, but it's part of the mulberry family, believe it or not. So you might know ficus as the fig family, okay? So when you think of edible figs, these are actually the ornamental or tropical forms of part of the fig family. So needless to say, there's a lot of different varieties right by me, and we'll show you all of these varieties. But let's just start out with basic care needs, okay? In order to be successful with a houseplant, you want to know what type of light they need indoors. For the ficus family, they're really looking to bright down to medium indirect lighting, okay? Bright light, or I should say bright indirect light, is really not direct sunlight, okay? It's through a filtered window or sunny window or a true northern exposure that is bright light. So it can also be in a very bright room, maybe about 5 feet away from that sunny window as well, okay? So they love that type of lighting. You can go down to medium light, I would say, for any variety that has a green leaf that's not variegated. They probably will do better in that medium indirect light, where it's about, let's say, 6 to 8 feet away from a bright sunny window, okay? Or 12 to 14 hours of fluorescent lighting. So some of these guys do really great in a true office setting, okay? With the lighting needs, we've got that covered, okay? But now what we need to talk about is watering. Pretty crucial with this family that you start with room temperature water. I will always recommend filling up your watering can the night before, letting it sit on the kitchen counter, and then using that water the next morning when you're watering, okay? Room temperature water, you're going to thoroughly moisten the soil in the plant pots. You're gonna let it drain out, and then you're gonna thoroughly moisten it for a second time, let it drain out, and put your ficus back, or again, you could always put a drip tray underneath these guys or a saucer, and then go ahead and let that water just run out of the drainage holes. Here's the key. Most of these ficus really would like to be on the drier side, slightly drier, before you thoroughly moisten them again. So make sure you're checking the top inch or two layer of soil. It needs to be dry before you do thoroughly water, okay? So keep that in mind. Humidity, since we're on the subject of water, guess what? These guys actually don't mind just regular household humidity. Now, it wouldn't hurt if you went by and, sprayed them or mist them a little bit with water in the morning, once a week or once every other day. Wouldn't mind it at all, but it's not necessary. They can tolerate a little bit lower humidity levels, and some of them are from Africa, believe it or not, so they can tolerate a little bit more dry air, if you will. Now, the next thing that we want to talk about is soil. So when you are potting or growing ficus, they do want just a normal potting mix, okay? Good drainage, making sure that it will drain the water out well. Other than that, they are usually peat-based typically, and that's okay. So your average houseplant potting mix is fine. Other thing that we talk about is fertilizer, and you can apply fertilizer to these plants, but you really only want to do it during the growing season. So April through September is really a good time to fertilize, and normally you can use a all-purpose plant food. You can use Osmocote if you want to for indoor plants, but if they're growing too quickly, because some of these do grow fast, then I'd go ahead and usually use about a half strength when you are applying the fertilizer. So do keep that in mind. I think a couple other things that we kind of talk about with the ficus family is some of these guys are very vigorous growers. So can you prune them? Absolutely, you can prune them. You can go ahead and remove growth tips. They will become more bushy, so you can prune them and kind of shape them. Some of the varieties. Some varieties that just grow with a single trunk, you can actually pinch out the growth tip to kind of slow down that growth. They can branch from that growth tip as well. Be aware that all of the ficus have a milky sap. So whenever you do cut or prune or pinch, you're going to see that milky sap form and also drip. So make sure that you have a rag, a towel handy so you can wipe up any of the milky sap, especially if it were to drip on the floor or on a table or what have you, okay? Be aware that milky sap does have latex in it. So again, that can be a skin irritant. It can also be a toxin for pets. So this is not what we would consider a pet-friendly plant, but I will say that they are awesome air purifiers. So if you have humans in your home and you're not worried about the pets going towards the plants, all of these are great, great air purifiers out there. Couple problem things that we find is if you're growing your ficus indoors in warmer, or I should say above average household temperatures, you'll find that sometimes they get spider mites, and that occurs quite often on plant material, especially when it's warmer and drier inside the home or inside the office. So keep that in mind and always try to scout your plant material for any type of problems in that respect. Mites can be controlled very easily by neem oil applications, so do keep that in mind and keep that on hand if you're seeing that problem regularly. Other than that, let's talk about some families that we have here, lots of different types. I'm going to start with probably the easiest ficus family, which is the rubber plant, okay? The rubber plant here, they have very large oval leaves. They're very leathery. They come in all different colors and variegations. Sometimes they can be small, start off small, single trunked. Other times you'll find them where they're bushy or even tree-like. So these plants, all different shapes and sizes. Dark leaf varieties like this one, this is Abidjan right here. There's also a burgundy leaf variety. This one is sort of a medium green here. That's Robusta. That's a pretty like classic rubber plant. And then there's a variegated variety in the back, sort of creamy colored variegation. This one's called Tineke or Tineke. However you want to say it is fine with me, but it's a fun new variegated type. Other types of ficus that we love is Triangularis. This is sort of a really pretty leaf here with that creamy margin, but it does have an interesting triangular leaf to it. Stays small and bushy, very fun. This one is actually called Audrey. Audrey is actually a Bengal type of ficus or fig, also known as a banyan tree. So this is pretty common in India, national tree actually, I believe. And it has really, really soft velvety leaves, really pretty light green veins to it, but really easy to grow, very good variety to grow. On this side of the table, I have some of the popular weeping figs, okay? Weeping figs are Benjamina, they're that species, and you have everything from too little, which is a little miniature leaf type, all the way up to a pretty variegated type like Samantha. And then of course there's tall tree types. This is probably one of your most common tall tree types or floor plants that you'll find in shopping malls, offices, in homes, and so forth. Sometimes you'll find a variegated leaf, a green leaf, and also sometimes you'll find trunk differences. This one has a braided trunk, so you'll see those out and about. These two are a little bit more unusual, and we've just started to grow these a little bit more. This is actually called an Indian laurel or MOCLAME, okay? And MOCLAME is really pretty, beautiful sort of oval leaves on this one, very glossy green, and has a very upright habit to it, you can tell. This one in the back is a little bit of a mouthful. This is CYATHISTIPULA. This is actually from Africa, okay? And it has that thick, really thick leaf, kind of like the rubber plants over here. Very dark green What's unique about this one is they can take a little bit more sun, a little bit drier conditions, okay? So if you're not a great waterer, this might be one of the varieties that you want to try. The other thing to look at the stems on this plant, we'll have Taylor take a close-up pic, is that it has sort of a dark trunk, if you will, and it peels, so it's also called a birch-like fig, okay? So keep that one in mind. Other ones that I know you'll all love is the Fiddle-Leaf Fig. So it's behind me here, and it has humongous leaves. So the Fiddle-Leaf Fig, of course, very, very popular. I want to tell you, it is probably a moderate to expert fig grower plant where it's a little bit touchy, okay? So do be aware of that. Maybe start out with a rubber plant first, kind of graduate into the weeping type figs, and then maybe move to the fiddle-leaf figs because, again, can be a little bit touchy in their growing. And then this last one is called Golden Gem. This is an upright tall fig here, Altissima type, and just really, really beautiful, sort of soft leaves, beautiful yellow variegation, but again, all different shapes, colors and sizes with the fig family, all fairly easy to moderate growers, and I think you'll just absolutely love them for their air purification indoors in bright to medium indirect light. Enjoy.